Welcome to 31. Yay, 31. Sarbin and Lim also linked imagination to susceptibility. By judging people's abilities to play act given roles, the researchers were able to establish those who were most easily hypnotized were also those who could most easily assume the part while play acting roles. Role-playing itself is seen as a main constituent of hypnosis by researchers such as Martin Orne, another leading investigator in the field. Orne, professor of psychiatry at University of Pennsylvania, carried out a now celebrated experiment to prove his point. He claimed that the so-called state of hypnosis was created by the combined wish of the hypnotist and subject to fulfill each other's expectations. Cues as to what is expected are given by the hypnotist and picked up upon by the subject. In his experiment, Orne gave a lecture to two different groups of students about hypnosis. One group was told that the state of hypnosis was signaled by the subject's inability to move whichever was his dominant hand, and a demonstration of this fact was arranged. The other group was not told any such thing. Later, Orne hypnotized volunteers from both groups. Those who had seen the immobile hand demonstration all found that they couldn't move their dominant hand when hypnotized. Those who had not seen the demonstration could move both hands quite freely under hypnosis. Orne concluded that people act under hypnosis as they think they are supposed to act. If they are keen to please, they can be hypnotized to order. More will be said about Orne's theory that a subject must not only want to be hypnotized, but have a positive relationship with the hypnotist when hypnotizing against will is discussed. Hilgard took issue with Orne's findings and carried out an experiment designed to show that more than role-playing is involved in hypnotism. He had 20 students thrust their arms up to the elbow in cold ice water so that he could record their normal pain endurance. Then he hypnotized 10 and told them they would feel no pain when he asked them to immerse their arms a second time. The other 10 were told to do the same thing, but while not under hypnosis. In the event, Hilgard found that the suggestion alone that they would not feel pain was sufficient to increase tolerance to the cold, but it fell far short of the tolerance exhibited by those who had been reassured while under hypnosis that they would not feel pain. Hilgard concluded that there was evidence, therefore, that people could get pain relief by hypnotic suggestion. They were not merely keeping their sufferings to themselves in order to please the hypnotist. A study of hypnosis and pain was carried out at the Wright-Patterson Aerospace Medical Laboratories in Ohio, according to Vance Picard in The People Shapers. The goal was to establish how aerospace pilots could best be kept alert during emergencies where they might be suffering debilitating extremes of heat and cold. Hypnotized students were put in special hot compartments and told to keep working on a specific task. They learned to carry on functioning efficiency in temperatures of 140 degrees. One student said that he had actually felt cool. He had been imagining that he was a lifeguard at a swimming pool. Barbara might construe that the student was achieving his end by his ability to fantasize, rather than by the power of hypnosis. Hey, which Barber would have said that? The Theodore Barber or the Joey Barber? Your editor should have caught that. Well, that could have been this would be like a research question. Which Barber? If I were a real professor, I would probably ask that as a research question, because if you're paying attention, you could extrapolate the information, Anyway. Yet another theory as to why hypnosis works has been ardently proposed and defended by the American psychologist Andrew Salter. He believes that hypnosis is simply a form of conditioning. Pavlov, during his work on conditioning, first posited that suggestibility was the most simple type of conditioned reflex in man because speech could serve as a conditioned stimulus. Thus, just as dogs might salivate to a bell if they associated it with food, so humans might salivate on hearing the words roast chicken or peppered steak, because these words had become associated with the real thing. Salter, an arch opponent of one of those barbarous theories, takes this idea on to explain hypnosis and various other inexplicable phenomena such as hallucination. In his own words, from his book Conditioned Reflex Therapy, "What does a spectator see when the good subject is hypnotized? The hypnotized, unfortunate word, says in a sporific voice, 'You raise your shoe heavy.' Does it not seem possible that the word heavy in good subjects was associated with heavy feelings, and that the repetition of the word heavy by the hypnotist acted as a bag and passes the essence of actual heavy feelings? And the sounds then hypnotists are people who ring standard bells, and find some dogs who are trained to celebrate to them. In this instance, people who feel heavy and tired, 'Behold,' they say, 'there's a good subject.' How meaningless! How is it to understand our discoveries that appropriate hypnotic suggestion of ice and snow producing a good subject? He possesses verbally conditioned dolls waiting to be wrung." He goes on to explain pain relief and the experience of hallucination by similar means. As regards pain, he draws attention to the fact that it is common to discover with surprise bruises on one's body that indicated some severe blow but which wasn't registered at the time, presumably because attention was elsewhere. Therefore, when hypnotized to not feel pain, what is happening is that the hypnotist's statements about the subject's ability to feel any forthcoming pain trigger established reaction systems of anesthesia. So since you're not going to feel pain, we're going to trigger your pain reaction systems. He refers to an experiment carried out by Elson and reported in the Journal of Experimental Psychiatry, where subjects were shown a light and heard a tone simultaneously. 32 out of 42 subjects later reported hearing the tone only when the light was shown. Salter concludes, "This means that 80% of the studied subjects in this experiment could not tell the difference between bona fide sound and their own hallucinations. When we realize that sights and sounds can be conditioned and that the bells can conjure them up, may be set off internally, we can understand why Luther threw an inkpot at the level, and from whence came the voices heard by Joan of Arc and Muhammad, to say nothing of the ghosts sincerely reported by the mundane persons. There is no question that hallucinations of hypnotists and the sensory miracles associated with various saints are uniquely genuine and explainable phenomenon of conditioning, hunger, fatigue, and excitement, all of which reduce inhibition, could elicit hallucinatory experiences." Salter goes on to make his perhaps most controversial claim that if hypnosis is, as he believes, purely an aspect of conditioning, then it should be perfectly possible to train people to carry out antisocial acts or harm themselves or others. In short, suggestion need not fit in with moral code, and therefore, under hypnosis, a person could be led to undertake to commit crime. Hypnosis is not a production of state. It is the eliciting of one. But if the reflex patterns in hypnotic subjects are there at the start, and such seems to be the case, we are forced to entertain the curious conclusion that suggestion does not implant anything. But this is not so. Hypnosis takes advantage of something already there in order to plant something new. Salter points out that just as intelligent people are most easy to condition, so are they easiest to hypnotize. Perry London, in Behavioral Control, arrives by a different route to the conclusion that hypnosis and conditioning, if not identical, are indeed linked. He participated in a study which demonstrated that the more susceptible people are to hypnosis, the higher their general level of brainwave activity. He goes on to say, the mental character of hypnosis also makes it appear to be the opposite of conditioning, which is an evolutionary spin-off of the spinal reflex, a system of parlaying primitive muscle and gland action into fancy behavior. Hypnosis begins its effects in the higher brain centers, where it is induced by means of speech. It starts in the mind and works downward. In that sense, desensitization and implosive therapy, flooding, are both akin to hypnosis. They seem to aim the mind directly, primarily by verbally means, and they use the impulses conjured by the therapist as catalysts for manipulating emotional responses of the patient. But they are also conditioning methods, producing the same effects by the same means on human beings as on dogs, cats, and rats. They thus represent a bridge between hypnosis and conditioning, which may be more closely related to process physiologically than is now known. To return to the conscientious subtopic raised a moment ago, hypnosis against will. Andrew Slater is not the only one to believe that hypnosis as a method of manipulating behavior in a way that goes against the grain. George Esterbrooks, who also equated hypnosis with conditioning, has waxed lyrical in books such as Hypnotism and the Future of the Human Mind, and fantasized possibilities of programming assassins. And there are those prepared to say that Bashara Sirhan, the killer of Robert Kennedy, was indeed one. Walter Beauregard quotes two experts in Operation Mind Control, Dr. John Hesse Jr., president of the International Society of Stress Analysis, studied Sirhan's psychiatric charts and interviews and his performance on the PSE, Psychological Stress Evaluator. He concluded, Sirhan kept repeating certain phrases. This clearly revealed that he had been programmed to put himself into a trance. This is something he couldn't have learned by himself. Someone who were to show him and teach him how. I believe Sirhan was brainwashed under hypnosis by constant repetition of words like, you are nobody, you are nothing, the American dream is gone, until he actually believed them. At that stage, someone implanted the idea, kill Rob F. Kennedy. And under hypnosis, the brainwashed Sirhan accepted it. Similarly, Dr. Herbert Spiegel, a medical expert on hypnosis, said, it is very possible to distort and change somebody's mind through a number of hypnotic suggestions. It can be described as brainwashing because the mind is cleared of its old emotions and values, which are replaced by implanting other suggestions. This technique was probably used with Sirhan. From my own research, I think Sirhan was subjected to hypnotic treatment. Whatever the truth of that, years earlier, Morris Allen, head of the CIA's Project Bluebird, established in 1950 to investigate agents and effectors using mind control means, had initiated his own experiments into the possibility of hypnotizing people against their will and programming assassins. Sorry. Isn't it funny? In the 1980s, it was common, well-known knowledge, because she drew from common, well-known sources to get her information. And today, if I say it in a video on YouTube, it's just a conspiracy theory. Yes. NK Ultra. Very good. Bluebird. I don't think Bluebird is the same thing as, what's that one of the blue things in the sky? Blue bee. Okay. Doo-da. The experiments were documented in a long series of memos to which John Marks gained access and referred to in the search for the Manchurian Candidate. Having undertaken a 4-day course in hypnotism with a stage hypnotist, Allen set about hypnotizing CIA secretaries and getting them to steal secret files and pass them on to people whom they supposed were total strangers, to steal from each other and to start fires. In February 1954, he simulated the creation of a programmed assassin. He hypnotized one secretary and told her to fall asleep and stay asleep. Then he hypnotized another secretary and told her that she couldn't wake her friend. She would become so enraged that she would kill her, or that if she couldn't wake her friend, she would become so enraged that she would, do her in. He then left an unloaded pistol near at hand. Even though the girl had professed herself terrified of firearms, she did shoot her friend. Afterwards, she blocked out the event from her mind and swore that she could never be made to do that to anybody. Allen didn't run away with the idea. From this success, that he had succeeded in finding a means to program assassins, he felt far more sure that he could repeat his success in any less experimental setting. To quote Marx, all he felt he had proved was that an impressionable young volunteer would accept a command from a legitimate authority figure to take an action she may have sensed would not end in tragedy. She presumably trusted the CIA enough as the institution, and Morris Allen as an individual, to believe that he would not let her do anything wrong. The experimental setting, in effect, legitimated her behavior and prevented it from truly being antisocial. An experiment of Martin Orne's serves to confirm Allen's reservations. Hypnotized subjects were asked to throw a beaker of acid into one of the people present in the laboratory during the experiment. The subjects had seen the hypnotist drop a coin in the beaker and had seen it dissolve. Yet they did fling the acid at a person. The setup of the experiment prevented actual harm from being done. It would be easy to conclude that hypnosis is indeed powerful enough to force people to act against ordinary judgment. However, Orne showed that hypnosis was not the essential ingredient in the act. He carried out the same experiment with non-hypnotized subjects, and they acted in exactly the same way. What was proved was not that hypnosis could cloud judgment, but that entrenched ideas of obedience to authority can do so. See Milgram's experiments with the electric shocks in Chapter 2. The subjects had accepted the role of subjects, and all the compliance with experimenters' authority that implied. In an article published in The Manipulation of Human Behavior, edited by Biderman and Zimmer, Orne discusses his view that hypnosis cannot induce people to act against their will because the hypnotic state is dependent on the positive relationship between the hypnotist and the the subject and their wish to cooperate. All studies that he had investigated of people being hypnotized unawares. When a therapist gets a patient to relax but is really using hypnotism without using the word, or of being hypnotized against their will, seemed to depend for their success on the relationship that had been established between the subject and the hypnotist. Ding, ding, ding. We get just one more paragraph. So we're going to stop down here. The only 3 cases of real criminal acts involving hypnotism that Orrin said he knew of, and where the people concerned claimed they didn't know that they had been hypnotized to commit those acts, all involved an intense emotional relationship between hypnotist and patient. All cases of attempts to induce antisocial acts by hypnotism, where the hypnotist and the subject had never met previously, had failed. Alright, there's 31 for us, and we'll be moving on, keeping on.